Chairman,
Thank you.
Mr. Lipinski for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the witnesses for their testimony and for their recommendations for improving this bill, and thank the members of this committee for their recommendations. I think that there certainly is always room for making things better, and I appreciate the suggestions. I want to work with you as we move forward on this. A couple things I did want to raise, though. Mr. Ranking Member Whitfield had raised the only talking about small manufacturers. It really is just talking about, in particular, by small and medium-sized manufacturers, and because the problems often faced by these small and medium-sized manufacturers relative to large manufacturers, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times the large manufacturers are the ones that get the most focus, but it's not exclusive to them. And Mr. Murphy had raised the issue about everyone on the task force being from the government and heads of departments and agencies. It also says in the bill that there will be subgroups to advise the task force, including members from the private sector, and I certainly agree. And I think that's why all of these recommendations have been very constructive, that we do need to make sure we are listening to those who are in the, on the front line. People like Mr. Hickey, who have been working for years in manufacturing. Couple things I wanted to talk about, ask a couple questions if I have time. Is first of all, I certainly feel, and I think most of us, maybe not everyone here, agrees that manufacturing is something that is especially important for our country. Many other countries certainly believe that it's important for their country. It's not only China and India that we're talking about. United Kingdom, Brazil, Canada all have manufacturing strategies. Mr. Dingell mentioned Germany also. And the reason for this is, I think what Mr. Hickey spoke about is that manufacturing actually produces wealth. And I think that's something that the American people, after we saw the financial crisis, said, what are we doing in our country that actually produces wealth? And I think that's why there's a lot of concerns out there. And certainly the polling shows that people would like to see promotion of manufacturing. I think it's important for our country. But I want to ask a question of Mr. Gordon, because the other part of manufacturing that I think makes it particularly critical for our nation is for defense. And I just want to ask Mr. Gordon, have you seen what you believe the diminution of our defense capabilities or potential diminution in the future with what has happened with manufacturing in our country?
Oh, absolutely. Every month there are manufacturers that may be secondary suppliers or may be a primary supplier for a defense system, and they're going out of business. And there's multiple reasons for that, and that does weaken our national security for a couple different reasons. One is when you go offshore with a manufacturer, you don't have an assured source of supply that's free of any political or other issues, and also you need a trusted source of supply. So there's about 50 or 60 suppliers that go out of business for the Defense Department every month, and these are listed in the DMSMS working group, which is a small area.
Thank you. And I wanted to ask Mr. Hickey, as a member of the Commerce Department Advisory Committee, do you see that it is especially important, from your experience there, especially important that we have a national manufacturing strategy that is coordinated from the top level, from the president, in order to make sure that we actually are having some kind of coordinated policy rather than a lot of disjointed policies, programs that may not really work well together and promote manufacturing?
Congressman, this is exactly my frustration on this. I've been on this ITEC committee for about 10 years. We advise the USTR and the Department of Commerce on trade policy that has to do with the steel industry. We get a lot of discussion, but there never seems to be a coordination. I'll come back to the best study I saw in a long time done by the Commerce Department under Mr. Eldonis back in, I don't know, it's probably 94 or 95. And he basically said, you know, this is the best I could do because there's way too many different people who don't really have a value for manufacturing. You know, and it may be an assistant secretary here or whatever it is. You have to have the President of the United States say this is a priority for our country. We have to. The Defense Department is even the most one. You've got. We don't have enough steel today to make certain plates that we need for the military applications we have going on today. We are importing them from other countries.
Thank you. Yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.